Well, there you go. I mean, I think that one.
You going downstairs now?
Not now.
Oh,
Late.
okay.
Did you need something?
No, I just wanted to know the
Welcome all to
rest
Dogfish. Our reading topic for tonight is Never Again. And when we voted on this, I guess a couple months ago, this topic got more votes by far than any other topic. At the time of the voting, Mike O'Neill, who will be reading tonight after not reading for many, many months, said, "If Never Again gets chosen, I just might have to write something." And I'm so glad he did. Cindy Hall, a Guild member who has never read at one of these events, emailed me and said, "For that topic, I'm missing the book club that I never, ever miss." So, those two things right there make me happy about tonight. We also have a University of Delaware student, and as I told one of the University of Delaware students, I think it's really great when they come here, and it's really important for us old people to hear from the younger generation. So I appreciate them being here. The Sargents will be here in a little bit. They're going to close out the night with a song. And then we also have our tried and true regulars. What would be a reading without Tom Foyer taking us down memory lane, without Paul Dyer writing something funny, without Joanne reading something that she insists is not funny. My own Never Again. I'd like to never again have to mention that orange bucket. Although in honesty, that's only partly true. There is a part of me that loves the fact that the Guild is not a big business and never, ever will be. We might never have an office. We might always be holding classes in bookstores and banks and running free rides out of grocery stores. But the flip side of that is that A, we have to think outside of the box when we do events. And B, we really and truly have to be a community, not just an organization. Being a community means that people are constantly volunteering to open their houses for book clubs and wine parties and classes. And there's an intimacy to our events, and I think it's because of this. There's also a feeling of we're all in this together. One of my favorite parts of the readings this summer at the Glade was how the minute we were finished, everyone jumped up and started pulling down tables and folding up chairs and wiping down counters. And there's also that damn orange bucket. And yes, it is a pain for me to stand up here and try to find another way to beg you all for a $5 donation at the end of the evening. But the fact is, the $5 donation goes so far because we don't have a lot of overhead. We don't have rent. We have negligible administrative costs. And there's a freedom and a beauty in that I appreciate. You have made something work that on paper doesn't look like it should work. And I think it goes back again to the fact that we are a community before we are an organization or a business or an association. The Writers Guild works not because of one person for one event or one donation, but because everyone gives a little bit. And so I'm actually really quite proud of that orange bucket. With that, let us have our first reader of the night, Sarah Barnett.
Exactly.
This is called Never Again. My life is full of never again moments. Yesterday, I wasted 2 hours wandering the web, clicking on irresistible links. Why grape nuts are neither grapes nor nuts. Yes, Michelle Bachmann really said that. Ever wonder what a Canuck is? I did. It wasn't all lowbrow fluff. I had to read. Seriously, how annoying is Hamlet? One of 10 least likable literary protagonists. I'm up to Humbert Humbert. When my computer screams, high disk usage, I stop. Never again, I say, knowing I'll be back when the writing hits a snag. I have another never again moment in Zumba class. We're doing leg lifts. The instructor is lifting her legs at right angles to the floor in time to the zippy salsa beat. I look in the mirror. Is that me? I look like the older women I used to feel sorry for, unaware of how far behind they've fallen. My leg achieves a wimpy acute angle. I try harder, lose the beat. Is Zumba a never again activity? What else do I say goodbye to? The list keeps growing. Body surfing in the ocean. The late movie. Dinner at 8. Sleeveless anything. Depressed, I disregard my earlier vow and return to the internet, where I unearth one of those popular lists of familiar items that today's children have never seen. A skate key, tan M&M, a typewriter, a radio the size of a refrigerator. These kids never heard the ka-ching of the cash register, the whir of a film projector, the swoosh and click, click, click of a rotary phone dial. These never-agains remind me that the game clock is ticking and I'm standing on my own 30-yard line. To gain better field position, I'll go back to Zumba with better shoes. Or I'll downshift to sweating to the oldies. Anything for another chance to say never again.
Sue Towers.
I was inspired by the recent, like a day ago, nor'easter. And I don't know if anybody knows that there was a world sailing event in Lewis. I'm not quite sure what happened because 75 people from all over the world, and they got in exactly, I think, a day of sailing in. I'm not sure what happened. Anyway, what they're going to do with the 75 new boats that they have. Anyway. Okay. I looked out the window and saw brightness, not visible for 7 days. Green and gold tones in a low-lying salt marsh lightened. The cloud swirl above our heads began to dissipate. The storm was slowly passing. I could leave behind the rain boots, rain jacket, and hat as I descended the stairs that day. The nor'easter had arrived along a stream of air, giving not a second thought to the havoc it would cause. The weather forecasters had misjudged its visit. Plans had been made for sunnier days. So quickly had people forgotten that summer had already ended and that winter was on its way. 75 brand new sunfish sailboats lined Lewis Beach. With their matching red, white, and blue sails and new rigging, they stood at attention, ready to conquer the waters of Delaware Bay. The sailors were all smiles, anticipating a heated race, camaraderie, and the joy of the wind in their face. But the old nor'easter did what nor'easters do best. Howled and crashed and roared, plummeted rain, flooded streets, sent all into hiding for 6 long days and deafening nights. It reminded all of us of its power. of so many unlucky sailors of centuries past, of tall, broad sailing boats crushed by winds and waves, of men drowned and fortunes lost. Dare you come out into the water this day? The nor'easter howled at the sunfish sailors standing on the shore. Stay safe, don't go, roared the ghosts of the Delaware Bay. Never again shall you sail in a nor'easter. The crushing waves carried the ghost voices as they cast upon the shore an old rotted timber from a sunken ship. Stay safe, don't go. The sunfish sailors stood looking at the angry waves of the Delaware Bay. I stood too, looking down on that old rotted timber, imagining the cries of the sailors lost. How fickle Mother Nature, sending a nor'easter on those 6 days.
Crystal Heidel.
Fabulous.
Can everybody hear me? All right. Again, I'm reading from Still Life in Blood, which came out in August. And I do have a book signing coming up. I was supposed to print flyers, and I forgot to. So that's going to be at Browseabout next month, November 16th, if anybody wants to come out. This is from fairly in the beginning. She gave Johnny a look of annoyance, the sort of glare he remembered all too well from college. Why are you here? I came to apologize. Johnny grabbed the bag he brought with him and held it out for her. Croissants. She didn't take the peace offering. Then again, he hadn't expected her to. Stubborn as always. He took a breath. Look, I left last night without answering your question. I owe you the truth. I didn't tell you the truth in college, and last night, well, I'd like to say something now. Francesca had stared over his shoulder, eyes on different spots in the distance, ignoring the bag and tea. Her eyes snapped back to his. Food isn't an apology. Say that when your stomach's full. I know you. Johnny gave her a lopsided grin, hoping it had the same effect on her that it had in college. That look on your face? I said you're hungry. Come on, I've got one for Elena too. Inside, he followed her into the kitchen and set the paper bag on the high top table with the beer and soda bottle caps under resin. He'd always liked her quirky things, like the hammock bed she had that had been in her rental on campus, and the table she'd made out of hundreds of stacked books and a thick slab of plexiglass. He pulled the teacups from their holder while he studied her back. He remembered the first time he'd seen her bare back, one spring break in a bikini, listening to Frank Sinatra in his dorm. Johnny loved Frank Sinatra, My Funny Valentine and I've Got a Crush on You, and Jazz by Charles Mingus. He loved the wildly dynamic melodies, and he loved holding her close while dancing, marveling at the feel of her skin against his. But mostly he loved the shape of Francesca's back, the angles and toned muscles, and the cluster of freckles that looked like the constellation Orion. He cleared his throat and removed the teacup lids. One sugar, light on the milk, right?
Lisa Graff.
Thank you. Government shutdown, never again? I don't think so. I quit teaching high school in the winter of 1990. Earlier that fall, one of my sophomore boys had decided to get drunk the day before Christmas break and christened my desk. An image not easily forgotten. Teach high school English? Never again. Now I had 2 children under the age of 5 and could devote my energies into becoming a full-time writer. This poem is called Housewife. It was revised for Ethan and Dale's Imitation and Innovation in Poetry class. Great class if you haven't taken it. Housewife. Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? A housewife thinks of lines of poetry while she mops the kitchen floor, stops to lean on her mop, pauses to watch the sun slip in and out of clouds. A squirrel root for the nuts he buried months ago, spilling dirt from a clay pot of red, decaying geraniums. The raisin is glued to the floor. She wants to run outside in the yard, wet with morning dew, to see if she still feels, if she still dreams. She squeezes the mop like her brain. She explodes. A sound no one recognized, louder than the drip of the automatic coffee maker. The evening paper said, Mrs. H.W. of no fixed address simply exploded in a quiet suburban neighborhood this morning, shortly after 10 a.m. Her children were in school, and her husband was at work at the time of her death. Sources close to the victim said she was frustrated lately that there were not enough magnets on her refrigerator to handle all the children's artwork. Thank you.
And first-time reader Cindy Hall.
Watching wildlife, so when Joe suggested a hike, my backpack and I were out the door before we tied his boots. On the trail, sunset glowed, bighorn sheep roamed above, and deep breaths were filled with aromatic balsam. My nature intoxication sobered when a Subaru-sized bear ambled down the mountain. He stopped 20 feet away and turned his eyeballs. Relax, hon, Joe said. It's not a grizzly. Teddy stood up to his full 8 feet of furriness. Joe, I whispered, we need to stand together, arms out, try to look bigger than Moose, and back away. No, we don't, hon, Joe said in a cocky, condescending voice. I don't know you before. Just play dead. In the Serengeti, I learned that playing dead is appropriate when blundering upon a lion. Or was it bear, lion? Bear, lion, crap. Come on, Joe, I said, backing down the trail, flinging my arm wide in a squirrely yoga pose. Don't worry, hon, Joe said. I'm going to curl into a ball and whomp him on the nose if he comes too close. Great. I was about to watch my boyfriend of 1 month become a meatball appetizer. Just then, there was a galactic screech, a whoosh, and a booming thud. In hindsight, it was probably a tree falling, but it scared the crikey out of me and the bear. He scampered back up the mountain. Joe calmly said, see, hon, I could have handled him. All I could manage was an eye roll and a look that said, at some point during the trek back, I must have been shaking my head because Joe said, don't let that bear spoil your day, hon. The day wasn't spoiled by the bear, hon. By the way, Mary Beth, that was 300 words and you can count them. I follow the rules. I love it.
Kelsey Dugan.
This is my first attempt at a closed form poem. We just learned about villanelles in poetry class actually today. So last night between the hours of 12 and 4 I wrote my first villanelle. So I'm not apologizing for my writing, but I'm warning. and its working title is Never Again. So, when I think of summer, I think of the pool, at the home of my golden childhood, to which time has been most cruel. From May to August, bathing was always a duel. A chlorine dip does the trick, right? I never understood. When I think of summer, I think of the pool. Would it have worked out if booze wasn't their fuel? What would have become of their parenthood, to which time had been most cruel? With parents severed, life set into misrule, with rebalance and unlikelihood, when I think of summer, I think of the pool. Dad used to take care of it, and the house like a prized jewel, shrouded by rank weeds and disdain, a ruin it has stood, to which time has been most cruel. Pool parties, mermaid tea time, and diving sticks rule. I can even make green hair look good. When I think of summer, I think of the pool. You can't make chicken soup out of chicken stool. Being only human, they did the best that they could. When I think of summer, I think of the pool, to which time has been most cruel.
Bill Kennedy.
Introduction this evening, I realized that I was in the minority when she announced Never Again. I didn't want anything to do with it, and I waited 2 weeks, and then I got interested in, and I Googled Never Again and got numerous hits. The most profound relates to the Holocaust. It's a reminder, a remembrance, and a warning, making two insignificant words into a powerful statement. There are other Google hits, much less profound. There was a movie starring Jill Clayburgh with this title. I never heard of it, and after reading the review, I don't think I missed much. Similarly, Kelly Clarkson recorded a song with this title. I listened to it on YouTube. I didn't like the words or the melody, and I couldn't dance to it. So I gave it a 5. You can explain that to the people listening. There are world peace organizations that have usurped these words in their titles. Someone probably thought it would help separate some people from some of the money. John Ashcroft wrote a book with this title that addresses the world after 9/11. I don't think I'll read it. I lived 9/11, and I've read a lot of the words about 9/11. I don't think he could have any new words. Just took many that have already been used and moved them around a bit. What these all have in common is a message about an event, whether real or perceived. The words tell us that something tragic happened. They tell us there was a lesson learned that should alert us to the need for vigilance in the future to avoid a recurrence. I've had my own never again moment. Perhaps I was a little careless or insensitive. Certainly I was inattentive, and it provided a lesson. I was dating 2 women at the same time. One was named Julie, and the other was named Julia. One would think this difference minor. One letter, an A in one, and an E in the other. Both vowels. I carelessly used them interchangeably. It proved to be one of those significant errors.
the chapter is called Carry On. As I write, approaching the final few pages of my work, I know I have crossed some imaginary kind of small town line. I have written of what is not spoken of. But as the ache I have felt for so long begins to fade, the quest to become whole again grows stronger. I know that this is still a place where people come when they want to live in a postcard-type setting. It is the kind of place that is easy to visit and difficult to leave. Friends or family or both pull us back, as does the nature and beauty of this seaside community. Coastal towns like Lewis and Rehoboth represent some of the best life has to offer. I know that one day soon I will again stroll through the brick sidewalk streets of Lewis with Maggie and Kelly by my side. I will smile and say good morning as I pass by neighbors, something I never did in Fairfax, Virginia. I never knew my neighbors back then. I will pick up coffee at the Lewis Bake Shop. I will wander through Biblion, the new bookstore in town, the one that sells gently used books and literary works from local authors. Afterward, with King's ice cream just steps away, I will sit at one of the old-fashioned formica-topped tables, softly lit by Victorian-style sconces. King's, with its hand-carved framed mirrors, its thin-planked whitewashed ceilings and original pine flooring. I am whisked back in time some 40 years before, when the parlor was first born. There, after relishing a cup of coconut fudge ice cream, I will sit and write. There, I will be reminded that never again will he be in a position to harm a child. Everything will be as it once was. No longer will I hear the hushed whispers of disgust about Bradley's case in every store or coffee shop as I once did. Most signs of him are gone now, except in the pages I have written.
Sharon Hoover.
Just to make sure I kept everything in perspective, they put Meg in front of me. And Joanne sent me a notice this afternoon about a YouTube of John Huston reading the final soliloquy in James Joyce's The Dead. If you haven't heard it, it's stupendous. Oh, by the way, I'm trading a word with Tom. He has 299, I have 301. Often these days, it seems, I deal with griefs of separation that I'm learning to mourn by savoring the memories. When I wake in the night in my downsized apartment in a more urban area, I know that never again will I sit in my favorite easy chair, a pale brown, just my size, sipping a glass of sherry in full moonlight. That's because a parking lot light now shines brightly in my window, and the chair is now in a daughter's house. Like me, it's about worn out, not worth shipping to the apartment. People tell me the light is to keep me safe. I laugh. Never again will I meet a brown bear on my doorstep at night, or see the destruction he leaves at my bird feeder and my beehives the next morning. Then I felt truly safe. The very elderly live on a threshold between savoring memories still so vivid we can sometimes taste and hear them, and glancing a bit longingly now and then toward the beauty of pushing up a few daisies. Our children, now grown of course, don't like to hear these thoughts. Nevertheless, I contemplate my molecules blending with the molecules of the earth to encourage it to go on for a while, giving birth to daffodils, reflections of deer on water, sunlight cresting over a mountain peak, a quiet midnight with the fire flickering as teenagers laugh quietly over a game while I lie in bed in the loft above them. And when it is all gone, several billion years from now, when the earth as we know it is gone, a final death of the shadows and reflections of life as we know it, still the universe will go on. New planets, perhaps new life, but never again this planet, this life.
Paul Dyer.
Hello? It starts so innocently. I'm cat sitting for Gail and Joe, she says. I thought the cat died. They're in denial. She laughs. It makes changing the litter much more pleasant. Come on over, we'll have drinks. I'll cook dinner. Not that appealing since the advent of her, I might have gained 8 ounces diet, which probably means spinach wrapped in, well, more spinach. But with my employment situation, my alternate dining option was crusts from the dumpster behind the grotto. But I wait because I know there's another shoe in the air dropping rapidly, sure enough, and we'll watch The Bachelor. I could have stayed away, but no. I'm on a sofa watching 25 beautiful women descend from limousines to meet Sean, the Bachelor. And that queasy feeling of embarrassment for my whole species starts. It becomes apparent for my co-watcher that this is a participatory event, that I'm expected to grade these women. But I'm sidetracked by thinking of the horrible imaginary diseases I have to give my mother to give any of them to even speak to me. I picture the gorgeous Desiree saying, "Your mother contracted Ebola working with Congolese refugees?" Yes, I'd have said, and I'd have been right there by her side if it hadn't been for these darn leg braces for my rickets. "You're going to fry in hell," she'd have said. "You're worth it," I'd have said as she ran. So I get in the spirit of things, noting that Catherine's eyes are slightly crossed. Tiara has an unsightly divot in her forehead. And Desiree is definitely bow-legged. When it's over and I'm ready to say, "Never again," the preview for next week's episode shows the lovely ladies slipping nearly naked into crystal blue Caribbean water. Pizza next week, I say?
Tom Boyer saved me.
Well, I have to say, when I'm thinking about gaining or losing weight or anything, it's at least pounds. Sometime in the early 1970s, Late Ann Landers polled readers with children. If you had to do it over, would you have children? She was astonished. More than 10,000 people replied immediately. More than 70% of them said no. The reasons included resentment about the burden of caring for children, and disappointment in the quality or success of the children they produced. Some divorced parents attributed to the children the destruction of the marriage. At my next visit home after a few drinks, I asked my parents, then about 30 years in, for their answer to the question. I half expected the answer would be hell no. At the time, our family had 8 people in it. 6 children ranging in age from 14 to 28, the 3 girls ranging from 16 to 20, the parents in their mid-50s. I was the 28-year-old, long out of the nest and married myself. My father taught social studies in high school. My mother was a homemaker. They had already been through the toughest child-rearing years. a low income to children ratio, the birth of a disabled daughter who died after a year, 5.5 adolescences, the remaining and most difficult half still playing out at home. Dad had only recently dropped his extra jobs, and their first new car since 1946 was parked in the driveway. Surprisingly, it was my father who spoke for both of them. Your mother and I are very proud of all of you, and we're really happy with the way our children have worked out, he said. But I have to tell you that if we had had any real inkling of how hard it would be to achieve this, we might not have had the courage to undertake it. Mom nodded. But I'm going to give you a bonus never again, just because I'm sitting across from Joanne. Her innocent face reminded me. Together we had a young employee named Martha, whom Joanne attempted to mentor by continuing to suggest experiences that would be good for her. You can imagine. And one day Martha said in disapproval, "Joanne, isn't there anything you wouldn't do?" And Joanne said, "Well, yes, I'd never take drugs again."
Mike O'Neill.
I met Mary Beth about 100 years ago when she did her first or second free write at the Lewis Library. And one thing I should have learned in all these 10 plus years was be careful what you say to her. Hence, I'm up here. And I'm not sure it's a good idea. It was a beautiful August evening when we arrived at the Glades for the final reading of the summer in that lovely setting. It had been a while since I had attended a reading. I was anticipating an evening of seeing old friends and some great literary entertainment. To my delight, there were ballot sheets for all to have a say in future readings. As I perused the list, Never Again jumped out at me. Sally looked at me like I had lost my mind when I said, "That would be a great subject." A host of thoughts floated through my head, which must have been mighty empty at the time. 1 or 2 word bullets, but they seemed to be plentiful. Never again smoking. Never again hangovers. Neither one good for your health. Marriage. How could I beat what I have now? Cancer. 2 and 3 years is enough, and besides, I have no control over that. I thought of loved ones never to be seen again. Mistakes made in the past that could not be undone, but could never again be repeated. Oh yeah, this was a subject with lots of potential. Just as quickly it left my mind to one fateful day in September, I got an email from Mary Beth. Wow, personal email to me. I was excited. She reminded me what I had said that night at the Glade. Oh, had I actually said it out loud? And would I do a reading on the subject? Okay, the gauntlet was thrown. No problem, I responded. I responded that I would indeed accept the challenge. This is where I would like to say never again. But I don't want to lie to you. I'm sure I'll be reminded of it in the future. So obviously, Mary Beth has unseated me, and I failed to produce as promised. I thought I only had 2 beers that night at the Glade. Must have been more to cloud my judgment, so. I have come out of this exercise with one never again. Since this dribble has exceeded 300 words, only slightly though, I will never again exceed the word limit in any future readings.
I want this meeting over with. Dick Pyatt.
My wife Natalie, my reader.
Is that good, volume-wise? Good. We of the Guild deal in words. Exactness, brevity, and clarity are the tools of our trade. So please pardon me for repeating what a smart man once told me. You can never do anything again. You can do something similar. But in the vernacular, we often say, never again. For instance, I have female friends who seem compelled to fall in love again, and out of love again, and swear never to do so, never again. However, I can't remember one single instance when one of them bragged, I lost my virginity again. I'll never do that again. Believe it or not, some people I know claim to have been born again. Not me. Even if my mother was alive, I doubt if she would permit it. And as an only child, more than once I heard her say, never again. Female teen groupies die again and again at rock concerts. I doubt if I will die more than once, and certainly do not expect I will get the chance to complain never again. Firsts are never agains by definition. Like, I know I'll never write my first novel again. My wife says I never should have written it in the first place. As a married man, I will never again tell my wife she looks just a tiny bit fat in those slacks. However, there are times when one may proclaim never again with relative certainty. Like that one instance when, on my very first attempt, I was able to read each and every one of those humorous comments which my writing teacher had scribbled in the margin of my manuscript.
Our final reader before we have a song from the Sargents is Joanne Sinsheimer.
This is a small story whose nexus with tonight's theme is only that it never happened again. I spent the last 4 years of the 1960s at Mary Washington College in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Fredericksburg was then a very cute little city where everything was within walking distance. One long, lazy Saturday afternoon, I walked downtown with two of my friends, Marilyn and Grace, because Marilyn needed a new dress for some special occasion. We walked into a dress store where I lasted about 5 minutes before I fled outside to stand on the front porch to daydream. At some point, the woman who worked in the store joined me on the porch and said to me in what I assume was a friendly, conspiratorial way, Jews really like to shop, don't they? I was speechless. To me, this was a small, bizarre comment. It was not hateful. It was just wrong. Marilyn, an Episcopalian, liked to shop. Grace, a Southern Baptist, liked to shop. Me, the only Jew in the group, hated to shop. Given the choice, I would rather clean a bathroom. I had no idea how to respond to the woman, and so I did not say anything to her or to my friends after they came out of the store because it was so confusing. That night at dinner with 7 other women at a table in Seekebeck, our college dining hall, Marilyn started talking about the shopping trip. When she finished, I told my friends what the saleswoman had said to me. As I remember it, all 7 of my friends at the table immediately threw back their heads and just laughed and laughed. I want to thank Mary Beth for creating this wonderful community where I feel as much at home as I did that Saturday night evening dinner so long ago.
Sergeants, do you have anything to say?
Oh, it's the Jews, they did it. Because they shot too much. They shot too much. That's right. Sometimes you can't. I get like, they walk away. I walk away. That's just a long story. But I wanted to. Their fault. It's always their fault. It sounds like
Looking around the room, the age of everyone, I think most people are right. I think that everybody will agree that pretty much never.
I like to. Oh, you do a Neil Young song. You all get it, you know. I probably don't know how many times I do. Let me make sure. I'm coming flat out when they ain't eating over it. Yeah. Like I'm cold. Like I'm it's all right.
Red Sox and who? Who they play? Which one? This says 1-0. Why the right day?
This summer I can